You're listening to Dude Podcast with JC and Will. Put some pep in that step. Enjoy the show.
Hi, I'm JC.
And I'm Will.
And I'm Hunt. You're listening to Dude Podcast.
There we go.
Oh my God, like a pro. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us, Hunt. And
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. No,
Good to see you guys.
it's good to see you guys. It's honestly, I haven't. Me and Will have kind of been taking a break for just with the holidays and everything, so it's just good to get in this again. And the reason why your name had come up was I was telling some stories about study abroad, and you were my roommate at study abroad.
I was.
And there's a lot to it, based upon just the fact that like we were in a non-English speaking country for about 5 months. The fact that I didn't speak basically any of the native language.
You claim that you actively got worse at Spanish on that.
I may. I mean, I don't think that's possible, but it certainly I didn't discernibly improve. That's
I can't remember who said this, but someone planted this seed in my head before we went that like I wanted to learn Spanish, and that was part of what I wanted to do. But someone said, like, what if JC is a language savant and he just picks it up and he just is like, you're there and like 3 weeks in, he's fluent. And I was worried about that the whole time. I was worried like, oh no, is he going to be better than me right from the beginning?
Well, let me tell you, you probably a couple weeks in, you were like, man, that fear should have gone right out the window.
Did you ever have anybody from in Spain say, "Oh, he doesn't speak English either"?
Oh no. Well, there may have been a couple times after I had a couple pops that probably was the case. So Hunt, we met. Hunt was fraternity brother. Actually, we were all in the same fraternity together. But we met at Beta, and yeah. So what I wanted to do was kind of talk about the evolution of how we ended up studying abroad, and then kind of unpack that experience today on the podcast.
It was a great experience. I enjoyed listening to your stories about Carlos, whatever that was, a couple weeks ago. Carlos was the man. I'm sure we'll get into more Carlos stories. One thing that did come up, I did think about this. I have a small bone to pick with you, JC. I listened to the story about Carlos, and when you guys were leading into it, Carlos, for some reason, I wish maybe there were other. Yeah, Carlos was oddly, seemingly infatuated with me, but Will nicely said, "Yeah, Hunt's a good-looking guy," and JC said, "Yeah, he is." Like there was some significant hesitation in your response that I noticed.
Well, what I think it was here was
and I want to point out too. He also denied that you had blonde hair. Can we see the locks here?
It's not.
Well,
it's not.
It's going to look pretty brown.
It's my
I
turn.
will say it's dirty blonde. My wife might not agree, but I think it's dirty blonde.
It's not dirty blonde. My problem was the caricature that was created of, like, I have no problem being like, I think Hunt, I think you're a handsome man, I think you're a tall man, and I think maybe you have lightish brown hair. The caricature that they painted of you was like, it was like John Smith from Pocahontas, strapping blonde, tall, yes, he has some of these things, but is he is he the person you're describing is not this man who's in front of me. Like, I was,
I think
yeah,
that's why it was so funny, because we all like, what are you talking about?
it was always like, look, he's exotic. And I'm like, him? Like, this guy?
It's pretty
Like,
underwhelming. Yeah.
like that was the best. And like, it was like I was the crazy one. They were like,
Right.
yes, you don't see it? I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember that that moment that JC was talking about, Hunt?
Oh, for sure, for sure. It was on one of our, it was maybe our last night there, or one of our
It was
last
one of
nights
the last
there.
nights.
Yeah.
It was one of the last nights, which was just absolutely hilarious. Okay, so I knew that what I wanted to do, like at Oklahoma State, was study abroad. I had talked to a couple of different individuals um, prior to even like enrolling at Oklahoma State, and I knew it was something in the back of my mind that I really, really wanted to do. And so, if I'm being really, really honest, I needed someone else to go with. So I had this in my head. I was like, I gotta find whoever that other person is. And so I kind of figured this out early on. I think in my head, I'm like, who I want to study abroad. I need a roommate. Who do I like that I'd like to do this with? And then at that point it was like, okay, gauge people who would actually like do this thing. And you were somebody who would like expressed interest. So I think I was like, all right.
It's cliche, but one of the greatest decisions I've ever made was doing this, and would recommend it to anyone. But
We ended up going our second semester, our junior year.
second semester, junior year, yes.
Did you guys have to raise funds yourself?
No. When people study abroad, there are programs that you can go with where it's like, hey, here is a collective of people that are also in this program with you. You're all, we found a place for you to live, or you live in these dorms, you take these classes. But the problem with those programs is all of those things cost money. And 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 they were like, I mean, seriously, they were like double the cost to do something like that. Whereas reciprocal exchange is exactly what the word is. You go there, they send students there, or they send students to Oklahoma State, and I think part of the marriage of the universities is some alignment on, hey, like tuition wise, it's not that different. So it's basically in some ways about the same. And in fact, I remember my parents telling me, you saved money by going to Europe.
And it was, I mean, we lived in it, we'll talk about it, but we lived in an apartment with, there were four people in an apartment that we split. It's very cheap. I mean, we traveled very cheaply while we were
Yeah.
there, and it was definitely on a budget.
I also
Yeah.
want to hear from Hunt's perspective though, because I think the idea that JC didn't know the language and he just went to Spain and just like they literally just like good luck, buddy. What how did that work from your
Yeah,
vantage
we
point?
were, I mean, we were so ignorant to like what we were getting into. We sat down. There were two older betas that had gone to Valencia like 2 years before. So we talked to these guys that said, "Hey, we lived by the ocean. We thought living by the ocean would be the cool place to live, but actually, there's not really a super bad part of town, but it gets a little bit sketchy in certain areas by the ocean." So they said, "Hey, don't live there. What you guys really should do is you should just go there and then figure out the coolest place to live, and then just get a place once you get there." So we were like, yeah, that sounds great. That's a really good idea. What we'll do,
You're telling me before you went to study abroad, you decided the best plan of action, don't find a place to live, go there and wing it.
yeah.
Yes. And our parents signed off on this, and they were
And
like,
how our
yeah,
parents, that's what
sounds
I, yeah.
great.
How our parents signed off on that, I have no idea. But we booked a hostel for 2 weeks. Maybe we can have 2 weeks, and we flew to Spain, and we had a hostel there for us. And we were, I guess, smart enough to book a private room between you and I. We shared a room. We weren't sharing with a bunch of other people. And so we get there. I speak very little Spanish. JC speaks none, and so then I'm called. We figure out how to get cell phones, and I'm calling with no Spanish, calling these real estate agents that have their
Well,
signs up,
well,
trying and like
we have to reframe this too. Like, let's also remember the timing. This is 2008, 2009, right? So this is pre like true smartphone. The internet's
This
very
is Charlie bit my finger internet. This is
exactly. This is early YouTube. This is. I mean, listen. There are
yeah.
things that
There's
were.
no internet on our phone. Like we didn't have internet
Yeah,
on our phone. It was a
you'd have to go
smartphone that you played
somewhere to
Snake
find
with. Yeah.
internet, bring your computer, or do that,
Yeah.
right? And so, so it was a lot more, um, yeah, I guess archaic in that sense.
Oh, for sure. And we would go to like real estate agents' offices and just walk in and like, what do you have available? I think there was some type of Craigslist that we were looking on. So then the first week and a half, of course, we hadn't found a place. And thank goodness there were two girls from OSU who were also there who had this awesome flat
They
downtown,
had an
like
unbelievable
right in the,
apartment.
it was unbelievable apartment in like quintessential downtown. They let us live on their, downstairs. I remember, there's piles of laundry that are starting to accumulate in the corners, and they're probably getting a little bit annoyed with us. And on Craigslist, we find this. Uh, we were going all over to see different places, but all the way across town, I think we took like the city bus or something to get there. I can't remember
So
how
on
we
the
got
subway,
there.
we took that subway a lot. I
Or
took the
the
subway a
subway, yeah, or
decent
the
amount.
subway. So then we show up at this apartment and we're going through this apartment and it's rough. I mean, it was not a very nice apartment and they didn't have a stove. I don't know if there was
There were like
warm
holes.
water.
There
I
were like
mean,
I remember there being like visible holes in places and being
it was
like,
very cheap. We were very concerned. Back to your point on cost, Will. It was cheap. It was in the budget. So the real estate agent is talking to us. I'm catching like every fourth word, trying to understand. And eventually she was just like, "Come on, you don't want this place. Come with me. Get in my car. Let's go. I'm going to show you a place a good place for you guys." So we're going. And JC's like, "What are we doing?" I think she's going to take us to another place to show us, but I'm not really sure.
we're
But let's
just
just
getting
get
in
in
this
a
woman's
car and
car. We're just getting in
yeah,
this
let's get
woman's
in this woman's
car.
car and go with her. So she
Yeah.
drives us across town and we show up at the apartment that we ended up renting. And JC, you tell a better story of
So we get in there, and again, like she could be. That's a great point, Hunt. I do think there was a moment of like maybe this woman is like kidnapping us. So finally we're with this woman, and we go in this apartment, and it was like again like there's that language barrier, and all of a sudden we're in a flat, and we're like looking, and it's like two other individuals that she kind of just introduces us to. And it's almost like they're interpreting for her. We're like all of a sudden it's kind of turned into this whole like she almost like pushes us over to them to be like like side talks, and like we're kind of like looking back and forth. And finally, the gentleman, and I think it was Wilfred initially, and then I think Marion started talking more. The gentleman who lived in the flat was like introducing, he kind of spoke broken English, but hello, I am from France and I understand you need roommates. Do you want to live here? And like there was sort of this broken like, you want to live here, you want to look around, and he sort of became the interpreter for what this real estate person was trying to show us. And I think me and Hunt, like, this apartment was the nicest apartment that we had seen.
yeah,
He was really nice. And
yeah.
Marion,
was
who
he
I
a
think
student? Were these guys students, by the way?
yeah, so
Okay.
he explained, I'm from France. There's Willifred from France, Marion from France. They're from Bordeaux, France, studying abroad, and they're vetting us to see if we could be their roommate. And I think at some point they find out were kind of harmless. You know what I mean? Because it's scary. Especially if you're like a woman, like you let these men live with you. Like they had girl roommates before, very non-threatening. These Americans are coming in. I think they look at us and we're like, all right, these guys are pretty harmless. You know, they seem whatever. And so yeah, right then and there sort of was I kind of feel like we toured it, talked for a little bit, and then there was sort of I do remember there's almost like a side discussion that happened between the real estate woman and them about like, all right, is this gonna, and then they kind of turned to us and they're like, you want to move forward? And we were like, I think we were just relieved. We're like, yes, we'll take it. Yes, whatever it was.
Well, and it was great because they'd been there for they were spending a year there. So they had already been there for a semester. They had friends. They knew where to go. They knew the city. They knew places to go. So, I mean, it was an absolute blessing. And I mean, so
no,
lucky
right.
for us
And I think we realized that too. We're like,
situation.
We need them. Like, we need you. Like, please help us.
They were awesome. They were awesome.
Yeah. So anyway, those were our roommates. Well, Marion and Wilfred from Bordeaux.
But they were both
awesome.
from France, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys go to their native land and they show you around France?
Yeah, eventually we ended up, but that was years later.
We went to see for Will's wedding and to see Marion, and it was such a fun dynamic. Marion had a great sense of humor. Her English, she watched Scrubs all the time, and her English was excellent. She like picked up on American English humor and would make jokes to us, and she would get mad at JC for touching her food in her in the refrigerator and leaving stuff out on the counter.
And I think that was one of the other interesting things too, Will. It's like, not only are you living in a foreign land, speaking a new language with people not only in that like culture that's different, but you're having roommates that have a culture that culturally are different. It really was, like, in my opinion, probably the best thing to happen to me, because it was like such a, learning experience in so many ways, because you had to navigate a lot of really complicated things very quickly.
All these stories that you've told so far just reinforces my my theory. I strongly believe that humans have the ability to adapt better than you can imagine. Like, all those stories you tell me, like, when you hear it, you're like, that's insane. Like, just going to a country and being like, I'll find a place to live at, whatever you were, like 21, is kind of wild. But the fact that you just kind of pulled it off, it like, humans can adapt so much better than you give us credit for.
I totally agree, Will. I mean, and just thinking about things like, we bought bikes while we were there, and they were to have like a bicycle to be able to get around town was incredible to us. But we found some like random flea market in the middle of the town, and we went and negotiated buying bikes or just buying a train ticket to say wherever you go, and then you end up in Germany. And
let me with the bikes, because the bikes is even more interesting. So I don't know if I've been told this is a defensive term. I don't know if it is. I'm just good. Gypsy, maybe it's offensive. I don't know if it is. That word gets thrown around a lot in Spain, right? I don't know. Apparently, they're like, we're literally So we're literally like, we realize, like, come to the realization, like, at some point, like, we need bikes, or we need something better way to move around other than walking, because we're walking like literally like 5-7 miles a day. Like, it's crazy. And so I remember Willifred's like, "Oh, you just go down to the soccer stadium and go to there's gypsies there on Saturday morning, and you can get the bike." And we're like, "What?" And he's like, "Yes, they are probably stolen, but if someone finds it, you just give it to them and then go buy another." And we were like the whole concept was, it's like, what, you were going to the soccer stadium, and we're negotiating with gypsies to get bikes that were clearly stolen. And he's like, yes. It's just like, okay. And so that's what we did. We just showed up at a stadium, and you're literally negotiating with gypsies.
Is it like a market of stolen things when you go there?
Yes, probably.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, there's a little bit of like a flea market vibe where, some people have in like farmers market, there's maybe some fruits and vegetables, but there's a lot of just stolen items that are being sold.
Yeah.
So, the ones JC has told me several stories about Valencia, but Hunt, I want to hear your perspective, because one story that's stuck out in my head for a long time is talking about going to bullfighting.
Ooh.
Can you tell me about your experience with it? Because it sounds wild. Like, it sounds like it's insane that this is a sport.
Yeah, it was wild. And we didn't go until the end. Did we go with
Fias with my
did we go with
parents.
Ty?
We went with my parents.
Yeah, we went with your parents. For Fias, it's a week-long festival, parties in the streets, very, very late nights, fireworks all day, every day, literally kids throwing fireworks in the streets.
You would see like 4-year-olds with like throwing fireworks, and you're like, that kid's gonna get his hand blown off. And you just would see these things, and you're like, that's wild. Like, a lot of things too in Europe, which we came to the realization of too, like, are just, it's a cultural difference, seem very unsafe.
Yeah, but to answer your question about the bullfight, it was not very enjoyable. It felt like, at the beginning it was like very, this tradition and just cool, and then this bull just continues to get stabbed over and over, and it's bleeding, and it's like, maybe if he got it once, I don't know, maybe just give him a little.
You kind of find yourself rooting for the bull. You're like,
you did.
Yeah, poor bull. Come on. Like, that's what it was. But it was cool because it wasn't an old school, like, round stadium. Like, the stadium probably was hundreds of years old, if not older. I mean, it could have been 500, 600 years. They're probably older than the United States, the stadium that we were in, watching this thing happen. And there's a lot of tradition with it. It is beautiful in the sense that there's pageantry. But yeah, at the end of the day, like,
I mean,
they basically,
literally, it's just the whole premise is a man's just going to go in and murder a bull, right? I mean, that's really
but the problem is, what they don't tell you, at least I didn't know this, I was ignorant to it. Like, the bull comes in pretty banged up. Like, the bull's like already been like, the bull's probably drugged up or stabbed, been like, it's not in good shape. It's not a fair fight.
Yeah.
It is pretty wild, to your point, JC, about the arena, to like on that last night of Fias, when we're sitting in like the center of the city, this incredibly old, like, there couldn't be a cooler setting for Fias. They construct these, I don't know, what are they, like 5-6 story high
paper mache. They're basically paper mache,
like statues, and then at the end of the night, on the last day, they light them on fire. And like, we're sitting there in this like the coolest traditional middle of the center city, just
cathedral. There's a cathedral that God knows how old it is, probably 500 to 1,000 years old in front of us. There's a giant, Virgin Mary like statue that's right next to us. The cathedral, it's beautiful, it's pristine, and here we've been drinking all night, and we're sitting here, and we're the only people here, just hanging out, and that was a pretty funny story too. That last night, the Fias. So one of the last nights, again, there are these, and I hope Parker puts these in there, these beautiful paper mache things that like every neighborhood in Valencia, and again, I think it's somewhere like in the neighborhood of like 50 neighborhoods, construct these things, and they could be like based on movies. I think a lot of them are like political messaging, but they're beautiful and they look like real statues. And then all of a sudden they've been working on these things all year, and they catch them on fire. And when I tell you they're like 2 feet away from like beautiful homes and historic areas and churches, they literally are. And it feels so wildly dangerous. like you're like, how the heck is, and like there's a fireman that's there, but like embers are like touching you, and like it's not like it's not okay.
It's
It
incredible.
doesn't feel
Yeah.
safe. And so the last night they burn these things. We find the biggest, I think one of the biggest, one of these statue things that they're going to burn. And so it was really cool to like watch this thing come down. And again, then there's fireworks. It's the craziest fireworks I've ever seen in my life still, in the sense of they're different. They have different fireworks over there. Like they're not the same fireworks that they're like lower, and they're definitely like, they feel more dangerous. I don't know. They're closer to you. You feel like there's like, you're getting hit by things where like, I've never felt that way with fireworks, but like I'm actually getting hit with pieces of something over my head, and I have to duck because that's getting thrown at me. So that's happening constantly. Plus you're consuming alcohol the entire time that this is happening. Great. All of a sudden you look down, it's 3-4 in the morning. Me, Hunt, we were with our friends from Holland, right? Weren't we with our friends from Holland? Yes. Yeah, we're with Stefan and Frank, and we're in the most beautiful, I mean, again, it's like the most beautiful part of Valencia, and we're elevated. We're up like what appears to be like 10 feet up on this like I don't know, like a podium thing where I'm guessing like the royalty. It could have been like, hell, it could have been the King of Spain and Queen of Spain could have been there. I don't know, but it was a place we shouldn't have been. We were not supposed to be
like
on this podium.
Earlier that day, they had like earlier that day, it was the podium where they had like the closing ceremonies essentially for Fias. And everybody, like the whole town, there was masses of people there. But then what we didn't realize, being foreigners, that we thought, oh, it's the last day, everybody's going to be out late again. But at like 9 p.m., everybody goes to bed on that last night of Fias, where we're still out, and the podium was still set up, and there's just like a smattering of people milling around.
Yeah, so like we're like, this is great, because like we're getting like, it's like a ghost town. It's this beautiful area, and so we're literally up on this podium above people, and there's and some, like, I'm telling stories and being ridiculous, and again have been sipping on some alcohol all day, and all of a sudden I fall backwards, like off this podium. Like it's like legitimately, like, I don't know if it was 10 feet, but it was legitimately like 5 feet up in the air. At least it was between 5 and 7 feet up in the air. Like it was pretty high up. And the way Hunt describes it, the way this podium was there was sort of a, I don't know if we would call it a banner. What would you call that, Hunt, that was around the outside?
Yeah, it was like a railing around it, like a 3-foot tall railing, but the railing was covered with almost like a curtain where, for 3 feet, there's like a red curtain that goes around the railing, but the curtain is not attached at the bottom. So, you could duck under the little railing curtain. And JC's, we're all sitting in chairs, and the back legs of JC's chair fall off the podium. So then he just like, here's the curtain. He falls underneath the curtain down to the ground, lands on his back.
Disappeared.
But to our perspective, he just disappeared. He just gone.
They were like, what happened?
And then there were like
So I fall, and luckily, again, I think I was just so, like, I was so relaxed. I think that's why I didn't get hurt. And I fell in such a way. It was, honestly, Will, the only thing I can say it reminded me of is like in Dumb and Dumber, when like Jim Carrey falls off the jetway and he's just he's like on the ground like that. So I'm like, I've fallen off, and like, they're like, oh my God, did he disappear? Whatever. And literally at that time, like it was pretty desolate out there. There is a group of people walking by, and I just happen to fall off this thing, and they're like, oh my, like there's a moment they're looking at me, they're looking down at me, I'm looking up at them, and I think I'm like, oh, F or whatever, like, I make a noise. And this is my favorite, it was a couple, they were from London or something, they were from England, and they were like, oh my God, it's a bloody American. And I'm like, ah! like I'm like making these noises. They're just like, what's he doing here? And why is he okay? So that we were laughing pretty hard about that. But then I do
Yeah.
remember too, all of a sudden, man, the police showed up, and that was pretty interesting too, because the police were like, all right, you guys gotta like
Time to go.
get out of here. Time to go. Yeah, so we did get escorted out of there by the police. But it is what it was. But yeah, then we got on bikes and proceeded to drive back, which was not probably the safest thing either.
Well, I was just gonna say you talking in your English accent reminded me and thinking about some of our, well, like JC and I were spending, you know, 20 hours a day together where our rooms are right next to each other. We're sharing a bathroom, and we joke now that it's like we were a married couple. We there were times where we would bicker and like, you didn't do this, and you said you would be home at this time, and
It's a little hard, but then you'd be like, so you said you were going to come back. It was like everyone, and it wasn't very often,
yeah.
but there was times when
No,
it was like,
it wasn't. It was times.
you didn't show up at my dinner party. Like there were times when stupid little things like that happen. Then you're like, what am I doing? Who
What was
cares if he
that?
doesn't show up at the dinner party? Like, why does it matter? Like, well, I was doing this. It was like, you act like you have a life. You don't have a life. Your life was here. Like it was so dumb.
I remember one time, JC, that I like left. I went out and left my cell phone at home on purpose, and I got
See?
back. I was gone for like 6 hours, and I
Where
got
were
back,
you?
and I walk in the door, and he's like, "I texted you." I'm like, oh well, I left my phone at the apartment.
It's so
What
it
have you been
got
doing
petty.
all day?
What have you been doing? Who do you know? You don't even have other friends. Who are you hanging
I
out
know,
with?
yeah.
Who do you hang out with?
I was
It was
probably offended because they told JC that we would ask him about our accent, but they said JC sounded like a movie star. He sounded like all the people in the movies. And they said that I sounded like a cowboy, that I sounded like a hick or something, that my accent was much worse than JC's. So I think I was offended by that.
that was one of my favorite. That was actually one of my favorite low key compliments I ever got. It was I'll never forget. We were at
Yeah.
some party and it was a girl from Ireland. She came up and she goes, "Oh my!" She was like, I'll probably do a terrible Irish accent. She was like, "Oh my God, you sound like a movie star. I could just listen to you talk all night." And I'm like, "Well, I'll do it." Yeah. And she was cute too, so I was like, "All right, well, yeah, I'll talk to you." And nothing ever happened, but it was.
Yeah.
It was. I was just thinking too, real quick, about a fight. One of my favorite fights that we had. One of my favorite fights was we went to London, or it was outside of London, I think. And we had to catch like a pretty early flight. And I think Hunt kept being like, "Hey man, we got to go to bed early. We got to do this." And me being like, "Hey man," like we went out, of course, that the night before we had to go, and we went to like this club thing in London, and just again, one thing, it was college stuff, so you're just drinking way too much and whatever, and I think Hunt put me in charge of no, he told me we got to wake up at this time because we got to catch a bus and then we got to catch this flight, and if not, we're going to be in trouble. And we were somehow like sleeping in two different, I guess because like it was like we were with two different, there was the guys who were hosting us, they had different apartments that were like close to each other or something like this. So I was somewhere else than Hunt was. And so Hunt woke up on time, he was ready, and he was like like what was the story
It was
there?
like throwing pebbles at your window to like wake you up. Yeah, it was more of an on-campus type situation, Will, and it was almost dorm rooms that were a couple houses down, and I'm like throwing rocks and pebbles at their window and trying to wake JC up. And then I can't remember, eventually you wake up and you come down and you're all like chipper and like nothing happened.
I
I
was
think
that
I
made you so mad. You weren't even like speaking to me. You were like, I'm
No, I
so we're
wasn't. I
gonna
think I was standing like I wouldn't even stand next to you. I would stand
he
like
was
10 feet away from him. Like
yeah, he
we
was
walked to the bus stop and I walked like 10 feet ahead of him the whole time
well,
until we talked
and
to
you were
him.
like, we missed our bus, and then we found out
Yeah.
the bus came like every 15 minutes, and like so like I kept
It was
being
maybe even more quick than that. I think it was like 4 minutes later, another bus came and I was so mad at JC.
and it's just like all these things were like he deserves to be upset with me, like
Yeah.
and like I'm like happy. I'm probably still inebriated. I'm super like happy go lucky. Like none of the issues were an issue at all, and I think which further frustrated Hunt. But that was just like one of the great things. But yeah, man, it was just a lot of fun. It was again, it was a very interesting time, and it was a time that like was definitely a challenge in that way. But it was awesome, man. It was just everything about it was really special and bizarre and 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 great. But yeah, I mean, I don't
You
know.
remember
I
when
could I could talk.
those guys from I know I could talk about it all night because and there's I keep thinking of all these different stories that we hadn't talked about, but those when those guys from England came to visit us and we did like a beach day
Oh my
and
gosh.
we were throwing the football. I mean, we were throwing the foot like we had a football. We brought a football or something that we would throw on the beach, but people would come up to us and like, "Oh, I've never thrown a football before," and ask
People would
to
want to
throw
come
it.
up
And
and throw a football. Yeah. And they
yeah,
also the other weird thing, Will, is you keep thinking in your head that like a football is you know, like everybody naturally would know how to throw a football. Um, that's
No,
not the
I wouldn't even
case.
say that there's some Americans who know how to throw a football. It's
But
not
but
easy.
but Will, I mean, the way these guys would try to throw these football and like they'd be like,
Like a
you,
rugby.
dude, yeah,
yeah,
it's
like
like
a lot of people
rugby
threw it like rugby. Yeah,
or just terror and just see like there would be like jack dudes on the beach because we were throwing around a football and they would like it was like the ugliest weirdest throw you've ever seen and you like you'd want to laugh but you like these guy people don't know but they would just come up to us and want to throw a football and so these guys came so we went and visited them in England had a good time they hosted us and then they're like hey we want to come to you and here's the thing too like where we're at is very appealing if you've been in England because you think about like it doesn't they don't really have a summer in the same way that like Spain and like more of southern Europe does. Like it's just
No.
always cold, right? So you're like in
Mhm.
sweat. You could be like basically in a sweater all year round. So like we have a beach, we have all these. So they're like, oh my god, yeah, we're coming to you. Like, please get us out of here when the weather gets better. So we all go to the beach, and when I'm telling you like we ugly Americaned it up, man. We get there and it's like, you know, finally like all these Americans were like, yeah, like let's throw a football. We're gonna play our music super loud on the beach. And like it was just like I swear, like it was like again, it was ugly Americans because we just went all out. What we had done, and I still think this is one of the most I'm very impressed with their ingenuity on this. We wanted to play beer pong on the beach, right? But we didn't have a table. So what we did was we literally um, dug and created like this beautiful, like almost like table out of sand that we played beer pong in, and like it was perfect. It was great, and we had people coming up, like random people playing beer pong with us, and like it became a whole like we were like we kind of took over the beach. I
we were
really do
super
remember,
pumped.
or in
There
my
were
head we did
everybody was yeah. There were so
coming
many
up and
people would come up and want to play and see the football and yeah, it was that
but
was fun. That was a fun day.
that was pretty remarkable. Yeah, but yeah, that was one of my favorite memories was building that that beer pong table because that was
Jesse,
incredible.
I thought of two other, I wrote them down while we were talking. I thought of two other quick stories that I want to tell.
Yes.
One super quick was back to you when you when you weren't when you couldn't speak Spanish, and there were times when like I would do it too. We would need something, so we would like get our Spanish to English dictionary out and look up all these different words, and uh, your eyebrows were getting a little bit out of control. So you had to get your Spanish to English dictionary out and you looked up all the words and you went to the hairdresser and or the barber and like went in and you had your sticky note and you didn't you didn't even try to talk to him. And this was back when we were probably bickering because I think you were like, please come with me, tell
Yeah, I
tell him
want to
what
get
I
my eyebrows cleaned
want.
up because I was getting like a unibrow, and I'm like, I need
I know,
somebody
I
to
please.
get my eyebrows cleaned up. And you were like, you go and talk to the
I was
woman
being
to
a
get your
jerk.
eyebrows
Yeah,
done.
I was being a jerk. Like, you go, you can do it yourself. You don't need me. Be independent. And so he had to had to write out what they needed to do to his eyebrows on a sticky note and walked in and handed it to him. And I think didn't you say like you sat down and you guys didn't speak a word the whole time? You just
Yeah, it was just like
started in on the eyebrows.
just dead silence, like her like taking care of the caterpillar there,
Uh,
and yeah, because I'm like these eyebrows are out of control. I got it. Yeah, I remember. I remember that. I remember too being outside of the barber shop, so frustrated, like practicing with my sticky note and being like, "This is what I'm going to say to her. I'm going to say." Do 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 do
no,
and like I remember walking in and everyone turned to me and I was like like I didn't like I was like, Emma, and then I just like defeated, handed her the sticky note because she was like, what the hell do you
what
want?"
are you
And I'm
trying to
like,
say? Yeah.
and then I'm like, and then you have to do like the whole mime, like, I'm happy, like,
Yeah, yeah,
take the hair off my
very good.
eyebrows, please. Good, oh, good, yes, yeah.
Oh
That
man.
was, oh my god. What was the other story
The
that you had?
the other story was when Will's parents and brother came to visit us, which was
That was
awesome. I mean,
awesome.
to have like not only we got the culture of Will and Marion to live with them, but for their parents to come and like they stayed like a week with us, I think. But Will's mom did not speak one word of English. Will's dad spoke a little bit of English. His brother, I don't think, spoke much English. But so Will was translating, and Will was getting better at English, but it was still pretty broken. And he would translate with his parents. But Will's mom a couple nights would like cook us these big meals, and we would all sit down at the dinner table together and eat. And there were multiple times. So the way our apartment was set up is there's like a long hallway and a kitchen off the hallway, and the kitchen had doors that would shut into it. So I would open up the doors to the kitchen, and Will's mom is busy cooking. It's just JC and Will's mom in the kitchen. Will's mom is busy cooking, and JC is like 10 minutes into a story in full English, trying to have this full conversation with Will's mom. He's 10 minutes into a story, and Will's mom gives me this look like terrified, like I have no idea what he's talking to me about. And he'd been just halfway through a story. So it was outstanding. But so we get like we're hanging out with him all day. We have this like traditional French. I think she had cooked up a bunch of crepes one day, and we
There, it
have
was. I'll never forget it. It was like it was a stack, like
yeah
this high of crepes.
stacked up.
Yeah,
So so we have this dinner, and we're
there were
all sitting there,
dogs
and it's
there.
like okay,
Hunt. It was their dogs. They. It was not just. It was not just. Again, small little flat, and it was mom, dad, brother. I think there was like an aunt or something that showed up,
yeah, I
and
think there
like
was yeah
two dogs. There were like two dogs, like little dogs, right? And I'm like, they're here for a week and here, like,
yeah yeah.
yeah.
So
But
they it was so then we sit down, and it's like okay, now what we do in French culture is we have some limoncello, like to they got the limoncello out of the freezer, and it's like this chilled limoncello that we all we're just sitting around the table talking. and they pour everybody a shot of limoncello. And of course, like, the JC and I are uncultured and we don't know what we're doing. And the limoncello is for, you sip on it and you talk, and
Yeah.
it's like what is that called? Like a dessert, uh, aperitif or whatever. I don't know the word. I'm still not very cultured. But so they pour it, they're all sitting down, like we're getting ready to talk, and JC just shoots the whole thing. And they all
It's
look at him
almost like
like,
sangria,
what
but a
are you
different. It's like
doing?
yeah.
Well, my favorite too
Well,
was like I
limoncello
think
is
the
like
dad.
it's like a liqueur.
Yeah,
Yeah,
You
liqueur.
yeah,
know,
Yes.
yeah.
you yeah,
So
Well,
but
he,
it
in
was
front of them, he's just slugging back
I'm
the
like,
yeah,
I'm
it's
limoncello.
like
like,
a
I'm like,
taking
ah!
cheers.
I remember the dad being like, "Oh, okay, all
Yeah,
right, big
they
man, big man. Okay, he's a big man.
they loved it. It
Okay."
was like, and Will was like, no, no, you just sip on it. But his parents loved it. It was like, for them, it was, they hadn't spent much time with Americans and we didn't know what we were doing. And it was fun.
Yeah, it was the best. The best too was like the language to your. They would just say things too that was just like they'd be like, "It is big shit, no." Like you're having a bad day and be like, "I know it's big shit, yes." And you're like, "It's big shit." Like I'd be having a
Yeah.
bad day. Hey, like it would be, and like literally, I remember having like a hard time, and like he would like console me. He's like, "It is
Mhm.
big shit, no, big shit."
That reminds me of a story. One time I went to a long, long time ago. I was 8 years old. I went with my dad, and my sister, to Estonia with our church to work on a camp. I work at a camp, like a kids camp, for like 2 weeks. And so, you know, I was a kid, so it's kind of like me going to camp, but I was in Estonia, and they had just gained their independence from Russia, so they're not very like their sense of humor is not very. I don't know. They're pretty
That's a
intense
Stoic
people.
people. It's a very
Yeah,
yes. It's fair to
and
say.
so they didn't talk a lot, especially at dinner. It was very quiet at meals. And another group from Denmark came in. They were also working at this camp. So we would sit with Estonians and the Danish people. We're all kind of sitting eating, and the Danish people were very chatty. And there's a language barrier there, and we're all kind of eating food, and I just remember being 8 years old, and the Danish guy just looks at my dad, and goes, "Oh my god!" He's like, "All the food they cook here tastes like shit." I look at my dad, I'm like, and later he's like, some countries like they just don't. Words just mean different things there. That was all he just. Words are just different there.
Yeah.
But he said it so loud and proud. He's like, "Man, all the food they serve here it tastes like shit." And yeah, so that kind of that reminds me like that story.
Yeah,
It's
it's different.
easier
It's
it's
not the
easier
same.
to say those, like, it's easier to cuss, I think, when it's a second language. It just doesn't mean the same. It doesn't feel the same.
Yeah, it doesn't have the same teeth to
Yeah,
it. It
right,
doesn't,
right.
Yeah,
and
right,
you're
right.
also like, I don't, again, I'm not in that culture right now, so who's it going to offend? It's not going to offend
Right.
anybody. It's going to,
Yeah.
embed a response, and so yeah, that was always a really, really, really funny thing. But yeah, I mean, it was a great experience. It was something that I'll, always tell. I always say I it changed my life in the sense of it allowed me to believe that I had the ability to kind of get out of wherever and do things that were kind of outside of myself, and that's what I credit that trip for completely. I think it gave me a sense of like, you'll figure it out. You're exactly what you said, Will. Humans are adaptable,
Yeah.
and you can be put in situations and you're gonna find a way to figure it out. It was really, really good for me in that sense. And um yeah, I just think it was a really neat experience, and one that I think, if possible, Everybody should spend a decent amount of time in a different culture like that, because you just grow so much as a person, you know.
I think from that perspective, it was if I always feel, I already said this, I feel so cliche saying it, but from that perspective, just understanding people that like everyone's different, but at the end of the day, we're all humans and we're all living a very similar kind of life experience, whether no matter where you're from. Was an incredibly cool experience to get to know people from all different countries and backgrounds, and then just it I don't know. It feels weird to say it breed. I think it gave us so much. So at least for me, gave myself so much self confidence and independence, just from back to the point of adaptability and figuring it out. It wasn't like I was figuring out life and death situation, but in the moment, it feels like I don't know what's going to happen, and then you just get this sense of no matter what happens in life, yeah, you would just kind of figure it out. And I don't know, it's almost like a stoicism, I think, that, there's going to be ups and downs, but we'll figure it out. And I think, I mean, it was awesome to be able to go with a friend, and especially a friend as good as JC, and I think we complemented each other in a lot of different ways. I'm incredibly grateful that I got to go with JC because of what he's so good at in terms of meeting people and putting himself out there in a lot of ways that is better than me. And it just like JC made all of our friends. He said he leaned on me, but JC made all of our friends while we were there because he's so outgoing and he would talk to everybody. And I mean, it made my experience so much better to be able to go with JC.
And I'm grateful because I would have died. So he helped me survive. I would have died. I did because I couldn't. There are certain things that I could not have navigated. So it's like I very much needed him to not die. So yes, he kept me alive. So I don't know. This was awesome. Thank you again for your time, Hunt. Will, hopefully you got something out of listening to this too and hearing some of these stories.
Fun hearing the journey.
Yeah, man. So anyway, Hunt, we are grateful.
Good to see you guys.
Good to see you, Hunt.
See you, Hunt.
See you guys.
See you, duties.